Hey guys, happy Sunday. Welcome back to Speaking360. What are we going to be talking about today then? Well, you may remember last week we talked about 5 different ways that you can make an impact on any audience, on any topic whenever you're speaking. Today we're going to take some of those experiences that perhaps you used as an example last week, a 2 or a 3 minute example of something you've lived out in life, and we're going to take that and turn it into a longer presentation so you can make a longer message for your church or a lunch and learn or even on a podcast or as a guest. So taking some of your experiences, turning them into something that's really going to hold people's attention, because you've lived some stuff out. You have a story, many stories, and your stories are your superpower, of course, as we say over and over again. But you've got to take them and you've got to shape them and you've got to turn them into a message that is going to hold the audience's attention if you're going to be able to help them. And that's what we're going to look at today. 6 ways that you can take your message and turn it into a longer message that's going to be helpful to your audience. Okay, so I'm going to model it, I think, first of all. I'll just kind of jump in and give you an example, and then we'll go back and see what happened, okay? So this morning I was on the beach, walking along the beach. Well, I live in Florida, Jupiter Island, and it's 100 yards, 200 yards to the beach each morning. I take the dogs and go for a walk, and I'm on the beach this morning walking the dogs like I do every morning. And I'm kind of walking along. Teddy's chasing crabs, trying to eat crabs. Charlie is eating stones, and I'm just kind of walking along, my feet in the water, and I'm staring into the turquoise water, and it's very beautiful, very clear, and the light is kind of dazzling and dancing in the water and the different kind of things in the water. My mind went back immediately like 30 years to when I was in Thailand. And I had this hut on the beach that I lived in. It was like about $2 a night, I think, at the time. It's crazy. Really, really inexpensive. That's why I stayed there for 8 months. And so I'm out like on the beach in Thailand, and same kind of thing. The sea is like turquoise. It's clear, the sun shining in and it's dancing. And I remember just thinking about the ocean, about the sea there. One of my neighbours, Paolo, was a Portuguese guy, and he'd come off his motorbike and cut his leg really badly. So he scraped all his leg, and it was, really nasty. It looked nasty. So I said to him, well, what you want to do is put your knee, your shin where it's all grazed, put it in the sea, because the salt water will be like, it's sterile. It's going to kill some of that bacteria. He's like, are you sure that's a good idea? I said, yeah, definitely. He's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, well, no, in England we would do this all the time. The salt water cleans the wound. It kills the bacteria. It's like an antiseptic. So he somewhat begrudgingly did this. He went in and put his foot in his shin into the sea and gave it. I said, give it a good rinse. And so he did this and came out, and we thought nothing more of it. Next day, then I said, well, how's the leg? He's like, well, no, it's definitely no better. It might be a little bit worse. And then the next day it was even worse. And I looked, I was like, oh my goodness, this is really bad. I said, we're going to have to go and see the doctor. He's like, yeah, I know. I think we better go into town. So it's like a short walk into the doctor. The doctor looks at it. Oh dear, he says, right. And he had some like paste, like cocaine paste or something that he spread over it to numb it. And then he could scrape all the pus off without it hurting. And then he gave him some antibiotics. And just as we're leaving, he says, stay out of the sea. And I said, what? And he said, make sure you don't go in the sea. And I said, but surely that's good for it, because the salt water is a light. And he's like, no. I said, but in England we do that all the time. And he said, well, maybe in England you can do that, where it's like, freezing cold. Here it's tropical. The sea is alive with all kinds of different bacteria. Last thing you want to do is put it in the sea. You've just all these things that are going to feed on it and make it worse. I thought, oh. And I felt really bad actually afterwards, because I caused him a lot more distress. But then it cleaned up when he had the antibiotics, and it got much better. And I thought about this a lot, because for me, my logic was sound. Salt water can kind of clean the wound. But if you change the circumstances, if you move from the North Sea, freezing cold in England, change that to to Thailand where it's tropical, then the logic doesn't work. The same logic doesn't apply. Things are different that you don't understand, and so it doesn't work like you think it's going to work. And I think this happens a lot, doesn't it, for a lot of us? If you imagine a bumblebee. Let's say you've got a window here, and there's a bumblebee in a bottle. So there's like a wine bottle with like this, but on its side empty, and this end of it is against the window, and it's lying flat on its side. So the bottle's there, there's a bumblebee in, and the bottom of the bottle is against the glass window, and so there's daylight outside. What's the bumblebee going to do in that situation? is going to fly repeatedly, isn't it, against the bottom of the bottle, because he knows that you head to the light. That's how you get out. You head to the light. He knows that. The bumblebee knows that's what you always do. You head to the light. That's the bumblebee's logic, isn't it? Head to the light. And so it will do that, pushing up against the bottom of the bottle right up until it dies. Probably just a couple of hours later, it's gonna die of exhaustion, isn't it, depending on how hot it is. And we've all seen this before, isn't it? I know you've seen this or something like this. You've seen flies and bumblebees and what have you dying on windowsills probably your whole life. The interesting thing is, though, when it's in a bottle like that, the bumblebee just applies that logic until it dies. But if there was a fly in there, the fly would apply his kind of, head to the light, and then it would get bored and it would buzz off in a different direction. And inside of like a couple of minutes, it would have gone out the other end of the bottle just by chance because it's doing something else. It's not as bright as the bumblebee. It doesn't have the bumblebee's intelligence, so it can't apply that bumblebee logic like the bumblebee. And so it, in that instance, saves its life. It's interesting, isn't it, when you think about this? Because I look back at my life and I think I've applied bumblebee logic where I'm absolutely convinced I'm right, and I'm just applying it over and over and over again, time and time again. And I bet I'm not alone. I bet many of you have done the same thing. We're all a little bit like this, aren't we? We think we're right. We're so convinced by our best thinking that we just keep applying it over and over and over again, and we keep getting the results that we don't want. Einstein actually talked about this, didn't he? He said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And it's never going to happen, is it? We're doing the same thing over and over again, and we're getting results that we don't want, but we're so convinced, the stubborn intellectual pride of our thinking, we're so convinced we stick at it over and over and over again. So if you're not getting the results that you want in some area of your life, and let's be very specific, let's talk about speaking. If you're not getting the results you want with your speaking, could it be that you're applying bumblebee logic over and over and over again, trying to get different results whilst doing the same thing, which you've proven time and time and time again doesn't work? And I laugh because I'm laughing at myself, because I can think of examples where I've done this, and maybe you can as well as we think about this together. So if what you're doing isn't working, if your way isn't working, why not try something else? Why not try our way? See, the thing with speaking, you can jump onto speaking360.com. In fact, go there right now, put your email address in, speaking360.com, and I'll send you a video from us every week like this, where we're taking counterintuitive speaking skills, things that the world's best speakers use that most people wouldn't think of. But when you think about them like this together, it's obvious. And it really makes a difference. So if your way isn't working, why not try ours? Go to speaking360.com, put your email address in there, and I'll send you a video like this every week to help you develop your speaking. Okay. So that's me giving you an example of, and why don't we put the link up there for you as well, speaking360.com. Okay, so what did we do then? What as I went through that, I gave you the cheat sheet at the beginning, or the infographic. What did we do? So first of all, number one, the topical intro. How did I start out? I said I was on the beach this morning walking the dogs like I always do. Now that's true, and pretty much every morning I'm on the beach walking the dogs. And then I said, my mind, as I looked into the sea, I saw the life in the sea. My mind went back 30 years to when I was in Thailand. So it makes it sound like, because I'm saying I was on the beach this morning, it makes it sound like everything I'm sharing with you now is recent. It's like today I've been thinking about this. And it is true, but it's also not true in that I'm going back to a story from 30 years ago that I've shared many times actually in different contexts. See how it works? So a topical intro makes it sound special to the audience. It makes it sound like it's just for them. Then what did I do? Then I told a personal story. So a simple personal story, a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, story about Paolo cutting his leg and then hurting his leg, and then me telling him what he should do and I was wrong. Then I built on that with a build story or a build example. Now the first story, the personal story, was a true story. The second story is an example. Imagine a bumblebee in a bottle. So personal story is powerful, but you've got to stick with what actually happened. An example, a made-up story, a hypothetical story, you can just write it for whatever you want to say, so much easier to use. So that was then the build example. Then I said me to we to you. What is this? Well, this is where I said, with the personal story, it's about me being stupid. With the bumblebee, it's about another creature being stupid. And then I said, we're all a bit like that, aren't we? So now I'm dragging you into it. So far, it's been not about you. It's been about me and the bumblebee. We're the silly ones. And then actually there's a metaphor, or we're personifying this falsely applied logic by calling it bumblebee logic. So now we've got a villain that we can use. That is the problem. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's bumblebee logic is the fault. Something else that we can change. So we're going from me being silly to the bumblebee to we're all a bit like that, aren't we? And I'm including you now for the first time. And then I'm saying, if you're not getting the results that you want in your life, is it possible that you're applying bumblebee logic? See how it works? So rather than me saying right at the beginning, you're doing things that are never going to work, you idiot, which is, most people are going to go, well, unsubscribe. I'm trying to romance you a little bit and take you on this journey where it's like, we're all like this, and this is what we need to do to change, and maybe you need to do it too. So that's the me to we to you. Then there's the killer quote from Einstein, and then right at the end, number 6, the call to action. See how easy that is? So I could have worked on one story last week, which was the 3-minute one, and then I could have added these other 5 steps, added a topical intro, a build example, there's a little bit of slick maneuvering with the challenge with number 4, then adding my favorite quote, and then the call to action to build on it. And it ends up going from a 2 or a 3-minute story to a journey that the audience has been taken on for longer. Maybe, I don't know how long that was, maybe 8 minutes or something like that, I would guess. So it's powerful. It's really powerful. You can do this too. So keep collecting your personal stories and working on those, and then think about your build stories, hypothetical stories that you can use as well, because they work too. That's it for this week. As always, we'd love it if you like the videos on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube. We'd love it if you put comments up and say what you like and what you don't like. And we'd love it if you subscribe to the channel as well. And if you're going to subscribe to the channel, which I would love it if you did, then hit the bell, and then you get notification every time there's a new video. And of course, if you want to share the email so that other people get it too, 360, speaking360.com. Encourage people to go there and to sign up, and they'll get the video each week. Thanks for listening. I'll see you soon if I don't see you before. Take care, guys. Lots of love. Bye-bye. God bless.